Welcome, and thank you for taking the time to learn more about the Elgincentives review and update. Over the course of this presentation, we'll walk through the details of the project, what we've learned so far, and what sorts of recommendations we're looking at. By the end of the video, we hope that you'll have a clear sense of the project and updates being considered, and how you can share your feedback. The Elgincentives program is now approaching its 10-year anniversary, making this the right time to pause, evaluate, and refresh the plan. We've structured the work into two phases, a background review phase and a document update phase. The goals are pretty straightforward for this project. Understand what's worked, identify gaps, and modernize the plan. The background review is completed in May of this year, and we're now in the process of testing recommendations in the second phase. We plan on having a draft plan prepared in early 2026. Before we look more closely at Elgincentives, let's take a moment to revisit community improvement plans in Ontario and how they work. A community improvement plan, often called a CIP, is a planning and economic development tool enabled under Section 28 of the Planning Act. It allows municipalities to identify specific areas in need of improvement, or the entire municipality, prepare a plan to set out a vision and goals for improvement, and use tools like financial incentives to support improvement projects aligned with the plan. A CIP can be very specific to one topic or area, or more general. However, most CIPs are comprised of the same four core pieces: a vision and goals to define what improvements should be striving for, a suite of financial incentives and grants offered to support private investment in improvement projects, a framework for implementation and monitoring, as well as strategic directions for council-led improvement projects, such as streetscaping. Now that we understand CIPs a little more, let's shift to Elgincentives, the county's community improvement plan. It's an award-winning plan that's been in place for almost 10 years. It's forward-looking and innovative in that it was the first in Ontario to be administered and fully funded by an upper-tier municipality. CIPs are most commonly adopted and funded at the local level. It offers 12 diverse incentive programs to help support community improvement projects across the county, which we'll get into in more detail later. The plan is structured around two key components: a county-wide visioning and implementation document, which sets out the county's overarching intent and role in coordinating improvement, and the CIP template, which is adopted by each local municipality, ensuring consistency across the county. These templates are adopted locally to comply with the requirements of the Planning Act, which would otherwise limit the CIP's power if it were solely adopted at the county level. Moving on, let's look at the background review completed earlier this year. The background review focused on several key areas. It assessed how well incentives met business and municipal needs. It measured contributions to jobs and investment, including economic development priorities. It looked at benchmarking against neighboring CIP programs to help evaluate our competitiveness of the plan. It reviewed administrative and financial capacity of the plan, including budget resources and grant amounts. And it looked at ensuring consistency with current county and provincial planning legislation and best practices. After a decade of improvement, 287 grant applications have been approved for roughly $1.56 million in grant funding. This has helped to support over $9 million in private investment in community improvement projects across the county. Community engagement was also a core component for the review. We hosted a business and development community workshop, launched a community survey, and participated in interviews with local municipal partners to help gather feedback on the CIP and help ground truth their findings. Some of the common themes that came out of this exercise revolved around a need for stronger communication about programming, higher grant amounts, and broader eligibility and new programming to be introduced. The background review resulted in a final report to County Council earlier this year. Overall, the review showed strong uptake of CIP programming and continued interest in its future, but highlighted several opportunities for improving the document. With the background work completed, we're now turning our attention to updating the document. This process will follow an iterative approach built on collaboration and feedback. Right now, we're in the ideas testing phase, which will help us with early drafts of the plan. Once we've got a solid draft down, we'll be turning to the community and stakeholders for feedback and refinements to make sure we're on the mark. Towards the end of the project, we'll undergo a statutory approvals process involving a public meeting and final touches on the draft plan before presenting to County Council for approval. This approach will ensure that by the time the plan is adopted, it reflects local priorities and shared goals. As a first step, we've prepared a recommendations brief. It covers proposed updates to the CIP, including goals and incentive structures, as well as other topics like administration and branding. Think of the document as a conversation starter, a basis for feedback before drafting begins. We'll go over some of those key recommendations right now. On the screen right now is the current vision statement for Elgincentives. This vision has guided the document for over a decade, emphasizing county leadership, economic growth, and community improvement. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like to take a read. To complement this vision statement, the existing plan focuses on three broad goals: stimulating economic growth, improving quality of place, and ensuring tax stability. While these goals still ring true, we feel some of the community's priorities could be better captured. To help us achieve this, we're proposing 5 new goals to replace the original 3. The idea is to make them more specific and measurable. These goals are creating more affordable and attainable housing options, revitalizing sense of place in core areas and main streets, diversifying agritourism and rural economic development, improving building efficiency and sustainability of development, and stimulating economic growth and vitality. To help achieve these goals, we're going to look at updating the suite of financial incentives as well. But before we look at those programs, it's helpful to understand what's currently offered. The current plan includes 12 different programs, shown on the right. While this diversity has been valuable, many of the programs aren't offered as standalone grants and need to be combined with others. Some are also difficult to know exactly what they're intending to support. The current plan also caps out at $15,000 per property and project as a maximum. This amount may not go as far as it once would have when the plan was originally adopted. To address some of the issues identified with the current incentives catalog, we've got a few recommendations. First, we're recommending that all incentives be restructured into 8 focused programs organized by improvement theme, such as facade improvement or agritourism, to make it very clear what the program is intended to support. Now, most of the current grants would be actually carried forward under this restructuring, but presented in a different way. Each of the programs would then offer one of several different types of grants that are aligned with the goals of each program, such as tax incentives or cost matching grants. Let's dive into the programs now. The Facade Signage and Property Improvement Program will support upgrades that improve the visual appeal, accessibility, and function of properties. The Brownfield Program will support environmental studies, remediation efforts, and redevelopment of contaminated or underutilized sites such as former gas stations or other industrial properties. The Building Improvement, Conversion, and Expansion Program will help with major building upgrades, renovations, improvements, or adaptive reuse of existing buildings to support new uses. The Building Efficiency and Sustainability Program will encourage retrofits to buildings to improve energy performance and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Industrial Stimulus Program targets larger scale employment projects that would create jobs or diversify the local economy, while the Additional Dwelling Unit Program would support the creation or legalization of additional dwelling units or secondary suites, helping to diversify housing options. The Affordable Rental Housing Program would support the development of new affordable rental housing in the county and promote mixed income development. And finally, the Agritourism and Rural Diversification Program would support ventures for on-farm enterprises, value-added agriculture, and tourism experiences that strengthen the rural economy. Beyond private sector incentives, another exciting addition being considered for the updated CIP is the inclusion of municipal leadership initiatives, something Elgincentives does not currently contain. These are council-led improvement projects or strategies involving public lands and spaces like streets, parks, and facilities meant to complement private investment. They would identify opportunities for the county and local municipal partners to work together on projects such as streetscaping, wayfinding, or public land improvement. At this time, we're looking at 3 potential countywide leadership initiatives to consider. I'll briefly go through those now. The first is a countywide streetscaping and public space improvement strategy. Main streets play a vital role in shaping community identity and supporting local business. By working with our local municipal partners to create more welcoming and pedestrian-friendly spaces, we can enhance both vibrancy and economic activity of our main corridors. This initiative could look at identifying coordinated approaches to public realm improvements such as streetscaping that align with the CIP's goals. The second initiative is a public land inventory analysis, prepared collaboratively between the county and local municipal partners. This exercise would look to catalog all publicly owned lands and evaluate their potential to help advance community improvement, whether that's through the redevelopment of underutilized sites for affordable housing, adaptive reuse of underused facilities, or conservation of green space or natural features. The third and final initiative involves efficiency and sustainability improvements to public buildings and facilities. Municipalities have an important leadership role to play in climate change adaptation, and by incorporating green infrastructure into public projects like permeable paving, rain gardens, and tree planting, and undertaking building retrofits, we can improve resilience, reduce maintenance and energy costs, and beautify our communities and facilities at the same time. In addition to the major changes being proposed, several other updates are being explored, including a full visual overhaul of the document, a refreshed branding initiative, and improvements to administrative and application processes. Now that we've got the main recommendations covered, what's next? Right now, our focus is on gathering feedback from local municipalities, the development community, community organizations, and the public on the recommendations. That input will help refine the recommendations and shape the draft updated document, which will be released later this year for review and comment. We're looking forward to sharing that with you. Finally, we'll be looking at bringing the draft CIP forward for approval in early 2026. On that note, your feedback is a critical part of this process and will help us in drafting a great plan. Scan the QR code here to learn more about the project, read the background report and recommendations brief, and share your input through the county's engagement website. You can also reach out directly to Carolyn Cron, Manager of Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives, at the contact information presented. Thank you again for taking the time to learn more about the Elgincentives project. Your continued collaboration and insight are what makes this program so successful, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts and working together to shape the next chapter of community improvement in Elgin County.